Today we're going on a trip to our field station in Ghana. Here you see a map of the country of Ghana. Ghana is a beautiful country. The coast in the south has white beaches and palm trees. Unfortunately, our fieldwork was not close to the beach. It was all the way in the north, in the upper east region, that is shown here with the red circle on the map. This is a much drier part of the country, closer to the Sahara, with only one rain season a year and one of the poorer parts of the country. For 9 years, we have followed almost 30,000 people living in this area. Now, if you zoom in further on the map, you can see the individual huts on the savanna. And if you look close, you can even see the small walking paths between them. If you zoom in even further, you're at home, in one of the 1,500 Ghanaian families that we followed during our studies. This is the house of Kwaku, who we met in the last video. Welcome to Ghana. The people in this area live in these mud huts with thatched roofs and are subsistence farmers. To study the older Ghanaians, we set up this small mobile field station that you see here. The man standing on the left, unfortunately without his hat, is Bart Koopman, a young medical doctor from Leiden, who as a PhD student performed many of the clinical investigations in older Ghanaians. Here he is making an electrocardiogram of the heart. And at the feet of the old man, you see the ultrasound machine that he used to measure the arteries in the legs. Next to this, we also measured several anthropomorphic measures and performed blood tests. Now, we knew that cardiovascular disease was not the major problem of sub-Sahara Africa, since most people don't live to old ages. But we were surprised when we found that if you study the Ghanaians that do live to 70, 80 or 90 years, they do so in remarkably good cardiovascular health. In this graph, you see the prevalence of peripheral arterial disease, the clogged arteries in the legs that Hans suffered from. If you study people in the United States, where we have relatively good population data from, you see that at age 85, roughly 25% of people have clogged arteries in the legs. You can measure the stenosis with the ultrasound. We also saw clogged arteries in our studies in Ghana, but only in 3% of the old people. 97 out of 100 older Ghanaians had perfectly good arteries at age 85. And this was not only the case for the arteries in the legs, but also for the arteries around the heart. EKG recordings showed hardly any sign of damage to the heart. Maybe we can learn something from these older Ghanaians. But what? Some people have asked me about the secret of the older Ghanaians, asking if they ate special berries or dig up wonder roots. Well, no. As you probably have already guessed, is the lifestyle of the people in Ghana. As subsistence farmers, they have a lot of physical exercise. You can also imagine that if you have to produce all your food from your own land, you end up with a lot of vegetables and not so much high and very calorie-rich foods. Logically, with a lot of physical exercise and without calorie-rich foods, older Ghanaians are lean. You can compare their BMI to that of older people in the United States or in Europeans. As you probably know, BMI is calculated as your weight divided by your squared length and is considered to be normal between 20 and 25 for older people. Well, in Europe and the United States, people have an average BMI of 26, 27. Remember that half of the European population and 2/3 of the people in the USA are overweight with a BMI above 25. In Ghana, on the contrary, the older Ghanaians had an average BMI of 18.6. Now, we also took blood samples and studied the sugar and fat metabolism. Here you see me in my younger years. This is the David Witt hair, as I always call my younger self. Now, if you look at the average sugar or blood glucose levels in the United States, shown in this graph here, they are between 5 and 6. Well, in Ghana, they were around 4. People in Ghana have a different environment, different daily activities, a different body weight, and different way of metabolizing sugar. And not only did they process their sugars differently, their fat metabolism was also different. If you would take a population sample in Europe or the USA and look at the total cholesterol, you would find average total cholesterol levels of again 5 to 6, while in Ghana the average total cholesterol level was around 3. Now, we understand why we saw so little cardiovascular disease in Ghana. Glucose and cholesterol are known to damage the arteries, and people in Ghana had very low levels of both of them. So what's new? What do we learn from Kwaku and his friends? Not that glucose and cholesterol are bad for you, or that lifestyle is the key to healthy aging. We learned something else from the older Ghanaians. And in the next video, I will discuss with you what the real secret is.